let's come together right now. Oh yeah, in sweet harmony, let's come together right now. Oh yeah.
Thank you all for coming and being part of this. I'm sorry, I'm a little sick, but for many of you, you've been part of this for many years. Some of you have been part of this for nearly 30 years, different generations of our pageants and collaborative art projects for the preservation of community gardens, engaging people on river restoration efforts on the waterfront, as well as now the Ecological City project that brings together and celebrates all the amazing climate solution initiatives throughout the Lower East Side, between 21 sites that are within the gardens, the neighborhood, and the East River Park waterfront. So we're going to be getting into that. And tonight you're going to hear from some of our artists who during the November meeting, we really delved into the various issues. And now those artists have now developed designs for what's going to be created in the workshops. So we're going to start this meeting with the artists and then go to community updates so we can learn more about the various issues that we're all creating all these beautiful performances and visual art about. So Lucrecia is our first artist. So you can present.
My name is Lucrecia Novoa, visual artist, working with their celebration Felicia for many years. I believe 2000, maybe 2 or 4. As a volunteer first, and after I became puppet director on Saturday. So I really think it's a privilege for me learning year by year what is going on with the organization and also with all different another organization part of this project. The first slide is, can you show next picture? Yeah. I'm going to work with the volunteers in 2 different puppets. One is called Garden Spirit Puppet. We are going to make a like I call body puppet. If you see in the second picture, all body design is the person inside the body is going to be part of the puppet going to every gardens. So we have to make a dress, we have to add with different decoration, and we will have a 3D head. So we are going to incorporate different decoration like flower, butterfly, birds, different kind of species of insect, etc. Anything also volunteer can add to this. Welcome. This is just a suggestion how we can make, but definitely when the volunteers are into the project, we have much more good ideas how we can add to this puppet. Another picture is, let me see this. Show me another picture, please. Yeah, I researched because really the thing we are going is kind of repeat year by year the same concept, which is good for me because finally I can remember. But everything is connected. We are going to add for the dress of this puppet different images like community, sustainable urban agriculture or farming, green infrastructure, saving garden, whatever connected with this is going to be good for the dress decoration. So my idea is maybe drawings, painting, also use a print transfer technique. So welcome volunteer also and participate with this. Also, we are going to include in the picture, I put a picture of Maria Torres, founder of Esperanza Garden. Unfortunately, she passed away recently, so we are going to include a special place, maybe in a necklace or something, her picture. She was very important for all the community gardens, especially Esperanza Garden. Next picture. This is a second puppet. It's going to be a 10-feet puppet called Ecological City Planning Solution. Face puppet representing in the design, urban and farming gardens, neighborhood, and waterfront area. Technique, like always, we work in clay, modeling clay, paper mache, painting, decoration. So we also work in the dress of this puppet. Next picture. Yeah, I show here some on past workshop. The people make drawings from the original drawing I draw, but always there are new ideas, so we can include. This is a brief sketch how we can develop this concept. And the dress, we are going to focus on the roof garden. There are many different places, include the center where we work. They have in the roof this kind of gardens, roof garden. And in the second design in the bottom, I included the floating park, which is something I consider interesting as a new addition to the design. I hope everybody went there and see how feel be into that place. I think these are all the sketches we have. Try to be very brief so many people can talk about another project.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Lucrecia. Those are awesome designs. And I know everyone is looking forward to being able to collaborate on those and see the results. Awesome. Let me pull up here. So the next person we're going to be hearing from is Johanna Roa, who is going to be doing the art and climate costume workshops. So let me go ahead and spotlight Johanna here. All right, take it away.
Thank you. Hello. Yes, I am Johanna Roa. I'm a visual artist, a curator, and historian. This is my first year working with the Earth Day celebration and with Felicia. I'm happy and honored. I'm currently in White Box. We will tell our workshops here, so that's fantastic. We have a textile exhibition if you want to look around. Okay. For me, it's important to recover the experience of being part of the nature. And I believe that clothes are relevant because they are part of our relationship with the nature. So because that's the place where the materials that we use to cover ourselves comes from. Then I'm going to present 3 designs for the Earth Day celebration. If, could we go for the next? Thank you. The inspiration of the design comes from the Hudson River Estuary, General Femet Solution, and less community gardens. That's wonderful because well, White Box is in Lower East Side too. Please, next slide. Thank you. This is the first one. Okay, yeah, please go to the next one. Okay, thank you. This is Green Solutions New York that includes Global Climate Solution image. such as bicycle infrastructure, zero waste lifestyle. I believe that's relevant. We are going to use remnants of clothes and recycled plastic for some laces and digital prints. Next one, please. The second design is inspired by the gardens of Les. We have many, and includes image of some of the gardens in the area, as you can see. This is the character of the gardens, and I believe that my work is related with the daily life too. You know, it looks like small tablecloths of the everyday life. I believe that that's very important to recovery, or to be responsible of the daily life, producing waste and that kind of thing that is destroying of work. Next slide, please. Finally, this is the Blue Water Spirit in New York. This is a quilt piece, has two different sides. It's inspired by water, especially the New York Hudson River estuary. We will develop the three designs with the people in the workshops. It includes some image about water and the Hudson River image. That is a place that we need to take care. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Johanna, for sharing. Again, everyone's, I know I'm at least excited to be able to contribute and see the community and be able to take part in these wonderful designs that celebrate all of these local climate solutions. I'm trying to find your name here so I can take you off the spotlight here. There we go. Awesome. Okay. So next we're going to be hearing from Kathy Kreutzberg, who has been working on our bioarts projects, which she'll have a lot of cool images about. So let me go ahead and spotlight Kathy. We just ask also, if you're not presenting, if you could try to mute your microphone, please. I'm trying to go through and mute people as I can, but I'm doing multiple things at once, so I'd really appreciate that.
Okay, so hello everyone. This project started during COVID when people weren't really able to get together, and I was doing a belly dancing class with my colleagues who are also going to be working with me to create the costuming for bioarts. So this year, Natalia and Mirabai are also going to be there. Although I think Natalia's soon going to be a new mother again, so she might not be there too much. But anyway, these pictures. Can you go back just for a sec? Thanks. These pictures are just showing the belly dancing costume, the mycelium headdress and arm pieces. There's mylar mantle and also kombucha leather bag on the side and also as a dress. Okay, now you can, thank you. You can change it. On the left, we created a macrame skirt. I would just say that these are prototypes because I am still new to bioarts. And so the first thing that we were doing was, hold on one sec. Thanks. The first thing we were doing is macrame skirts, and this one has chimes on it. And then I added some Mylar sparkle. I'm gonna try some new design ideas with my partners. That includes kombucha leather hanging hanging down. As you can see in the bottom right-hand corner, I created a new sketch, but still using the idea of macrame. And okay, next slide. This is the process. This is kind of the exciting process of bioart. And we are going to make the kombucha leather first by fermenting the kombucha and then creating the SCOBY that we harvest, which you can see in in the picture number 2. And it's kind of fleshy looking, and then it dries into this very strong material. It's a little bit it's quite strong, but it's very sensitive to moisture. Okay, next one. I did want to just include a slide that explains a little bit about what is kombucha leather exactly. Kombucha is a mix of fermented yeast and bacteria, and then the process creates something called a SCOBY, which is symbiotic culture of bacteria and yeast. And this is the byproduct of the fermenting kombucha. It's a thick mat layer, and it grows and continues to grow thicker. Ultimately, you harvest that off of the top, the byproduct, and use it to create the kombucha leather. And the actual SCOBY that you are harvesting is cellulose fibers and that are sort of interwoven, and they create this bacteria, and the yeast inside is growing. Okay, you can move on. These are the kombucha leather panels that we made in the past. We used turmeric powder. This is all new, so we're experimenting how to dye the kombucha leather, and we had some maybe false starts with beet juice. So the turmeric powder seemed to be pretty good. I also tried on the right bottom corner some India ink to see how that holds up on the kombucha leather, and it looks quite nice. So we might do some more of that, and maybe even some egg tempera. Okay, next. This is now a different material. This is mycelium, and the mycelium is interwoven. Mycelium is grown in forms and then interwoven into these headdresses that are made from Virginia creeper. Okay, next. And there's a whole process for growing mycelium and a hemp substrate. And mostly it's really actually quite complex because it easily is contaminated. So the process is a mixture, and then let it grow, and then take it back again and feed it, and then put it into forms and let it grow into the forms. And that's what we're going to be doing again. Okay, next. And then this is the result. On the right side, you can see what it looks like when you peel away the forms. And then if you grow armature wire right into the middle, we can then weave it right into the headdresses. On the bottom left is some accessories that were grown in egg cartons and then sewn onto some armbands. Okay, next. And then last year, it turned out, we tried a few different things and to color the mycelium after it was harvested or taken out of the forms. And we discovered that egg tempera worked excellently for painting the mycelium. We mixed some different things like turmeric powder and cocoa powder to create these different colors. So we'll do that again. Okay, next. This is the final slide. The one thing that a lot of the bio art growth materials are lacking is something sparkly and for creating sort of a spectacle. So I've been saving these masks, all my COVID masks, the bags, the Mylar bags, and then we can cut them into circles and make these. So this is sort of a play on bio arts because it's really I guess it's biomedical waste in a way that we're cutting this up and then adding it to the costumes to give it sparkle. Okay, and so that's pretty much the end there.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Kathy. It's always exciting to see all these things that we can do with these things that just naturally grow. And it's exciting to have seen these projects unfold over the years and develop. So following that, I'm going to have Carla bring up some images from one of our other artists, Dee Dee Moucher, who unfortunately cannot make it today. I believe, let me check. I don't think she's here. Nope. So Dee Dee is a part of a collective called the Masters of Succession. She's really, her practice really focuses on bioremediation and yeah, really helps with the puppet and at the end of the structure here at the end of the parade route. We all end up at the river, and this is kind of the offering that is placed into the East River. So I don't think we have an updated presentation, but we'll show you some things from years past that we can share. So let me go ahead and pull some of those things up. If any of you have attended the Ecological City pageant in the past, it's the part where we all give out the rose petals and share those. So, all right, here we go.
So Hannah,
Yes.
I was just going to say, Kathy is the one who's doing the sculpture this year.
Oh,
So,
awesome.
yeah, but we can show, so Kathy's going to have her own take on this. She didn't really get into it too much in her presentation, but you can see the ones that were created in before. So you can just show a few pictures and there'll be some other alternative version that Kathy will come up with.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for that insight. Go ahead, Kathy.
I was just going to say, I spoke to Dee Dee and she gave me a few ideas. Probably we will set up some type of workshop so that we can create this figure, and we're going to need to be collecting, especially garden waste to create the figure. The things that have kept the gardens beautiful over the fall, like the old weeds that have the beautiful stalks and things like that. So that's the next step, is collecting the materials that we're going to be using to make a figure for the river offering.
Great.
So Carla, you can keep clicking if there's nothing else there.
Yeah,
If-
we can go to Katie.
Awesome,
for
cool.
the-
So if there's no more there, great. We're gonna go ahead then and move on. And we look forward to seeing what materializes in Kathy's creative brain. So yeah, next here we're gonna be hearing from Catherine Frege, who will be working on a collaborative art and climate painting and murals that will be displayed at some of our beautiful community gardens. So while Carla pulls up the presentation, I'll go ahead and spotlight Catherine here so she can share a bit more with us.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. Yeah, I've been working with Felicia for an awfully long time, and basically all the work that I do with her is to celebrate the climate solutions that are represented in the gardens and also are consistent with the UN goals. So if you go to the first one, yeah, so that what you can see there is the diagram of the UN goals, and then the low on the upper left and right, and then we at the lower left we correlated those with what was going on in the gardens. That's what the lower drawings are or lists are. And go ahead and show the next one. And we came up with a mandala that represents, you can see the UN pattern underneath, and then on top of that is transposed the gardens and the solutions that they represent. And that's sort of our mandala. Move on to the next, please. And we have, and these are banners that celebrate the different climate solutions in each garden. I think I got 4 slides of those. You can show those. So this is the, and I'll say also that one of the projects that we're going to be doing, these were done, I don't know, about 5 years ago. I'm not sure exactly how long ago, but these gardens have all been innovative and have added things and have developed. And so part of what we're going to be doing this year is to update the climate solutions represented in 6 gardens. The 6 gardens we're going to redo are the Campos, the De Colores, Carmen, I guess that's said Carmen Pabon. You say that too. Green Oasis. Oh no, sorry, we're not doing that one. We're doing Green Oasis, Parc de Tranquilidad, Sages, and the 6th and B community garden. So let's keep going. And this is the way the workshop goes. People get a black and white drawing and then fill it in as colorfully as they are inspired to do at the moment. Keep going. And then we also have done large banners. The 4 that we're going to show are actually a response to the East River Coastal Resiliency Project and represents the highlights of different aspects of the East River Park, and also the climate solutions that are represented there. So you have the, this is the actually in the middle, the 2 bridges area. Keep going. And then this is far north. This is the Stuyvesant Cove Park, and you can see the flexible berms and the solar power and different things that are represented by that section of the park. Keep going. And this is actually a composite of all the gardens, just to do a larger mural version of what goes on in the garden, showing the climate solutions that are represented in lots of different gardens. Keep going. And this is the Loisaida section. Keep going. And then showing some neighborhood solutions, what goes on in the built environment. So rooftops, EV stations, cleaning up of lots. Well, the bottom part is the history. The bottom section of these generally shows the history of what was before. So keep going. Oh, and this is possible solutions for the river itself, showing added recreational value. Keep going. And here they are. This is the process of having the black and white drawing and having people fill it in. Okay, well, yep, there we go. That's good. So we're going to do one more large one. This is sort of a sketch of what what I'm starting with, showing a lot of the indigenous species and what the waterfront would look like if it was restored, with the city in the background. And I'll bump that up to a large black and white drawing that we will paint at one of our workshops. It may change radically though, because I'm thinking of not making, I was kind of trying to make it look open, but then I thought, why not jam it with lots of species? So I may change the feeling of that, but that's where we're starting anyway. Go ahead. One more. And where these will all be exhibited is along the park fence at 9th and C. We've had really nice exhibit there last year that was a bit of a surprise because people loved it and interacted with it. Nobody who walked by didn't stop. Everybody needed to stop, talk about it. People talked about how they had lived there all their lives and what they remember about the building of the gardens and all the political challenges that they faced. And some of them talked to their kids about what were climate solutions, what was going on in the gardens. Some kids said, I want to live in that garden. And the ages and all the different groups that were representative was more diverse than I've ever seen. So it was very successful, and I think we're going to kind of build it up this year with the celebratory banners for the gardens, and then the one mural showing the coastal view. And that's what I've got.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you so much, Catherine. These always amaze me, all the beauty and the nature. And I think people that don't live in the city would see these and be like, that's not New York City. So it's always beautiful to see how rich and diverse this environment really is. So to close out this section of our panel speakers, last but not least, we're going to hear from Felicia, who's the founder and executive director of Earth Celebrations. And she's going to tell you a bit more about the vision of the project this year. So I'm going to go ahead and spotlight her. And following that, we'll hear from some community members with local updates. Here we go.
Okay, so let's see, I'm trying to see it in, do you have me as side-by-side speaker view?
I am, let's see, Carla doesn't have it up yet. Let's see.
Okay.
One second here. All right, let me pull it up here just as it feels safe. All right. So, but while I do that, Felicia, why don't you tell people about how they can get involved and participate in some of these designs that they're seeing tonight?
Yeah, so the workshops are going to be starting up in March. We're working out of 2 spaces. So the Wednesday workshops happen at White Box, where Johanna is right now in the video screen, which is on Avenue B and 2nd Street. So this will be a new space, and Johanna's very connected to White Box. So that should be a whole interesting thing. Kathy's BioArts will also take place on those Wednesdays in March. And then Johanna continues on through the pageant. The Saturday workshops with Lucrecia will happen at the 6th Street Community Center. So hopefully people won't get too confused, but Saturdays are at 6th Street, Wednesdays are at White Box. They're a few blocks from each other. So if you end up the wrong place, you can always find your way back to the correct place in time. So yeah, so that's what, we hope everyone will participate in the workshops, bring your energy and ideas. And then we have 21 different site performances that are being created. There are a few people from past years who present works again, but there's still many sites that we're inviting new artists. So if any of you know dancers, dance groups, musicians, and singers who may have work that's related to either gardens, earth, climate, and the waterfront on any level, then we can talk to them and try to figure out which site we can make it relate to. We try to as closely match performances with what the climate solution is at that particular site. So Carla, do you have the presentation up?
So there's some technical difficulties here. I'm trying to pull it up on my side, but it says that your file is too large.
Right, that's why Carla downloaded it on her.
Yes, that's why I downloaded, but right now my Keynote, the application is not responding, which is a MacBook problem that I thought I fixed. But hopefully
Is there a way I can
I'm
share screen?
troubleshooting. I'm troubleshooting
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah, so the file's too large, Felicia, for me to open. So if you have it, apologies,
on.
everyone. We all have had technical issues in these COVID years. If you could just.
Okay, it worked. It works. I got it.
You got it?
All right, back
Yeah, I
to
got it.
business.
Okay.
Awesome. Thanks
I had
everyone
to
for your
double-
patience.
Here we go. All right.
Now, I know many of you have seen this over and over and over again, but there are a lot of people who are new, so I'll just go through some of it quickly. I'm not going to go through the whole thing, so you can, Carla, move through it pretty quickly. Go to the next.
Yes.
Can you go to the next slide? Okay, so basically what happened, you can leave it on this slide for a second, is, we were so involved with trying to preserve the gardens throughout the 90s, but at that time, nobody ever thought that we were preserving future climate solutions. We were preserving open space and community cohesion and all those other wonderful things. And that was what Hurricane Sandy did, when it flooded. The gardens absorbed the flood water, and out of that, the gardens ended up getting federal funds to enhance the green infrastructure in the gardens. So that became a new thing that really developed out of Hurricane Sandy, was the recognition of the gardens as urban climate solutions for resiliency, climate resiliency, for floodwater absorption, as well as a host of all the other climate solutions that we explore throughout the pageant. So you can go to the next. Okay, so some of this shows you some of the different solutions. You know, there are microgrids, there's rainwater harvesting, there are bioswales to help filter pollution runoff, carbon sequestration. You can keep going to the next. Next. And you can go to the next. Okay, so the East Side Coastal Resiliency Project, this project was started before, we were developing it in 2016 and 17, and that was before the original rebuild by design plan that the community worked on was thrown out. So the first year of the pageant involved the presentation of the original plan. And then we were abruptly notified that that plan was thrown out and there was a new plan, which many in the community felt was a destructive plan. And, we got behind and supported a lot of, the actions, going to City Hall, testifying on behalf of the community's original plan and vision, and, not supporting this more destructive plan. So I think there was a whole different attitude about how we were going to engage on this East Side Coastal Resiliency Project, because we just had that thrown at us in midstream after 2018's pageant. Okay, next. So yeah, you can go to the next. There are meetings, as you can see here, and then you see all the gardens throughout the neighborhood. So we identified 21 sites connected with different climate solutions, as Katie had said. You can go to the next. So there are 12 garden sites, several neighborhood sites where we celebrate like the Earth School Green Roof, 6th Street Community Center's Rooftop Bee Farm, and then we have different sites along the waterfront where we address river and waterfront issues. I can go to the next. Yeah, so if people are really interested in seeing the 21 solutions and the sites, there's also a link on our website to that, so you can actually see what site connects to which solution. Next. And this is just here, a list of the various. So it's everything from bioswales and pollinator gardens to sustainable urban agriculture. We have, permeable paths and rain barrels, water harvesting ponds, composting and recycling. There's holistic healing and wellness, and of course, carbon sequestration, air filtration, heat island, cooling with the greenery. There's neighborhood green roofs and community solar projects. And then we also go over to the waterfront where we explore oyster planting and wetlands and other bioremediation efforts. Next. So here, Carla, if you can just go through pretty quickly so I don't have to keep saying next, like a second per slide. Yeah, so this shows you the workshops, the puppets, so you get a sense of it. You can keep going. So you see that the technique of many people come and work on these projects, which is always a challenge. So you don't have to be an artist to participate. We find a way so that everyone feels like they can take part in helping create. And sometimes, even though we have an original design, people come and they have ideas and different parts of the project develop. That's Kathy in her zero waste costume. You can keep going. This was the bioremediation sculpture, I think in 2018. So it's made of willows. It had a raft. It had mud ball bioremediation material mixtures. So that rode on a cycle rickshaw throughout the day and then was offered and floated on the river. at the end of the day. Next. So these were the workshops that Katie had done and some other workshops. You can keep going. So in addition to the work, you can keep going through it, but in addition to the workshops that we do on Wednesday and Saturday, the workshops Katie does will be in partnership with our different community partners like Lower East Side Ecology Center and Henry Street Settlement, University Settlement, Museum of Reclaimed Urban Space. So these workshops will happen in April, and we'll be working on the new mural project. And then there are various schools that also get involved. You can keep going. And we also try to develop projects with them. Sometimes the projects we go into the school, sometimes the teachers work with us and then work independently with the kids to present something for the pageant. So overall, it could be like 50 different community partners that are offering some kind of contribution to making this all happen. We'll continue. So you can see here some of the costumes. These are ones Michelle Brody did. This is on the left, the flood map of Manhattan costume, the Gaia climate solutions, and the sustainable development goals. Continue. There's the mobile mural in, I think it was 5 panels. Go to the next. There you can see the puppet and the bioremediation sculpture on the palanquin. So for the actual day of the pageant, we need hundreds of participants. Some people do the all day, who are the main costume performers, and others come in shifts to help with some of the different puppets. That's the bioremediation sculpture, I think in 2019. So it changes every year. And then there's a lot of community participation along the route. This is from the 6th Street Community Center, where there was a performance the kids created celebrating their rooftop bee farm and CSA. This is at Eastside Outside Garden, celebrating their composting program over there. And there's always a ceremony. So that's sort of the central, at every garden that we go to, there's a gardener that gives an offering of water from the garden and has received a gift in exchange. Usually it's been a little bioremediation amulet for their garden. And then they say a few words about what the climate solution is, and then there's a performance. So that could be music, dance, theater, or poetry that will celebrate that solution. And then we go to the next site. So this all goes on through 21 sites from 11 to 5 p.m. So you can keep going. And yeah, this was Artichoke Dance performing in El Sol Brillante. Recycler costumes. And keep going. And then we even had costumes of climate consequences, floods and fires, and ceremonies with gardeners. So in some ways, you know, there are things that are very much a performance, and in other times it might just be a gardener telling people about what that garden is all about and what climate solutions actually exist. So if you do the whole route, you see it together as this sustainable ecosystem. You can keep going. So we celebrate vertical farming and sustainable urban agriculture. I'll just do a few more slides. So I think that, you know, that gives you a little bit of a sense of it. And it, you know, there are plenty of more pictures that you can see on the website and on YouTube. There are plenty of videos. So if, you know, you want to explore more about the detail of the project, the full slideshow is available on YouTube. So anyway, thanks you all. You know, I'm glad to at least let people know who are new a little bit more about the project. And yeah, hopefully they can follow up and figure out how to get involved.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Felicia. Yeah, noted. Everyone, all the projects that you've seen today, all those art projects are collaborative, and there are opportunities for you to participate and get your hands on them. So now in the second portion here of the panel and planning meeting, we're going to hear from some of our local community members and get some local updates here. So kicking us off here is going to be Anna Somo, I believe. Are you here, Anna? Yes, I see you. Awesome. So Anna's
Yes,
going to
I'm
share with
here.
us. Awesome. Anna's going to share with us more about what the 6th Street Community Center is doing in the community.
Yes, can you all hear me okay?
Yes, we
Yep.
can.
Okay, thanks everybody. It was really cool to hear about some of the past work Ecological City has done and to see some of the beautiful costumes. So as Felicia was mentioning, 6th Street has worked with y'all in the past. We've often collaborated by having our younger students in the youth program, our elementary school students perform a play as one of the stops along the procession. So I'm just here to tell you all a little bit about 6th Street and give some local updates. So we could go to the next slide, please. Yeah, it's a scroll down. Yeah, so I'm just going to talk about who 6th Street is, give some of the information about our programs, talk about how we interact with climate justice and sustainability specifically, and then answer any questions that people may have. I know we only have 3 minutes, so I'll try to be brief. Go on to the next slide, please. So first, just what 6th Street is. We're a nonprofit organization. We've been in LES. We're on obviously East 6th between Avenue B and C. And we started in back in 1978. So we've been around for a minute. And we are a community center that's committed to advancing justice in all different intersectional ways in the Lower East Side. So social justice, environmental justice, housing justice, economic and racial justice. Next slide, please. So we have several different programs at our community center. My name, as I said before, is Anna, and I run the Teen Climate Justice program. So that's one aspect. We have high schoolers come after school and engage with climate justice organizing topics. We also have a youth program, which is more elementary school age. And they do a lot of urban agriculture, arts, mindfulness practices. And I'll talk a little bit more about that later. We also have emergency food distribution, community fridges on site, and one that we're supporting locally in the neighborhood. We have a mutual aid kitchen project where Evie Loves, another amazing partner organization, makes meals to distribute for mutual aid. And we also have a CSA program, which I will share more about in a little while. Can go on to the next slide, please. So, as I said, I am lucky enough to work with the teenagers after school in the Teen Climate Justice program. So we do everything, from prepping for and attending protests to talking about speculative fiction, just all the kind of aspects of climate justice theory and organizing skills that we want our future leaders to have. And for the youth program, it's arts focused, urban sustainability, as I said, a lot of activism around climate justice as well. And we do collaborate with the two programs together. Next slide, please. Hi. I can also talk about the youth program as well.
Oh, awesome. Hi, Ivy.
Sorry, I didn't want to cut you off, Anna.
No, please. I wasn't sure if you were there, but please go ahead.
Yes, I work at 6th Street as well. I am a youth educator, and I also run the CSA program. So in terms of our youth program, as Anna was saying, we do a lot of mutual aid stuff with them as well, including making meals with our youth program to distribute to the community fridges around the neighborhood. It's been a really cool thing to do with them. And then, as you can see in this next slide, this is the community fridge that we have at 6th Street, where some of our community food distributions are put in. And in terms of our climate justice organizing, some folks were talking about East River Park earlier in the call, and that's definitely something that 6th Street folks have been really active in advocating for. We also are members of the New York Renews Coalition, working for climate legislation to be passed in New York State and City. We also have been very heavily involved with the Public Power campaign, trying to get our utilities to be publicly owned and use renewable energy rather than fossil fuels. And we're also very involved with the No North Brooklyn pipeline fight. That's how I got kind of involved and found Jen and met folks at the community center. So that's a little bit about our climate justice organizing. You can go on to the next slide, Ivy.
It went to a different one, but so
Sorry,
about
can
our
you go up
urban
one more?
sustainability initiatives, we do a lot of urban gardening with our youth program specifically, with the teen program as well. But we used to work a lot with the 6th Street Farm. And this past summer, we were collaborating with El Jardín, one of the community gardens in the East Village, doing lots of different urban farming workshops. And we also have bees on our rooftop that is mostly run by the youth program. They kind of take care of the bees, but we really rely on like the network of almost 50 gardens in the East Village to kind of be our pollinators and powerhouse for the bees on our roof. Yeah. Cool.
I'd also, if we have time, be happy to answer any questions. And if we don't have time, I'd be happy to answer questions in the chat as well. But thank you all for hearing from us. And thanks, Ivy, for doing this with me.
Thanks, Anna.
Awesome. Thank you, Anna and Ivy, for sharing some updates on the 6th Street Community Center and what they're up to there. I know I'll miss going there for workshops and seeing all the things buzzing in that space, but excited to see where our workshops will be taking place this year and where Johanna is working. Next, for community updates, we're going to hear from Wendy Brower, who will be speaking a bit about the initiatives of Green Map and some neighborhood climate solutions. So Wendy, I saw you join, so let me find.
Yes, I'm here.
Yes, thank you. The voice, you're here. Let me bring you to the spotlight.
And
All
great
right,
to
take
hear
it
about
away.
6th Street Community Center too. I'm a big fan. I get my vegetables there. They have a wonderful CSA if you live in the neighborhood. Anyhow, I was going to talk about trees today, and this is, some of you may remember the bendy tree, the famous bendy tree that lived next to the Gaia tree in Tompkins Square Park. This is what it looked like when it came down. So I just thought it was amazing that it was such a target. And next slide, please. I'm really was excited to see this group of high school students the other day taking care of street trees along Avenue A there with the block where my office is on 3rd Street. There's a group of people that come out every Saturday and take care of the street trees. And now they're spreading out to work with local high school students. And I'm just delighted because I think stewardship is one of the most important things we can do for our trees, help take care of them. And next slide, please. There's, in fact, the city has a stewardship program. You can find it in the parks website where it talks about street trees, and there's one coming up. Oh dear, the next one coming up is March 3rd in here in this neighborhood. But ask your council member, let's get a street tree stewardship event going. Ask Lower East Side Ecology Center and talk with your neighbors, because this is actually really important, especially the little skinny trees like you see here. They're only 3 inches. They're really 6 or 7 years old already, but this is when they need the most help in terms of water and also taking care that garbage and dog poop and bicycles stay away. So this is something all of us can do to make our city greener and better every day. Next one. Oh, you can become a citizen pruner, by the way, and walk around with clippers and fix things as you go. 4 years ago on Valentine's Day, I went to CB3, Community Board 3, and said, we need street trees. And I had written a draft resolution about it, which I knew to send in a week ahead so people could look at it. The Parks Committee passed it that night. Later in the month, this community board passed it. And the next month, the Parks Department came and said, we're going to give you 1,000 new trees for the Lower East Side. They later split it up between CB3 and CB6. So it's especially for communities impacted by the closing of East River Park. But we're getting close to the 1,000 tree mark. They think they might hit it this year. And that's a lot of baby trees for all of us to be aware of and take care of. So highly recommend. Thank you, Candace, who does amazing work at Sty Cove. I don't know if she's spoken already, but such a thrill. Next slide, please. So this is where the trees are going to be coming in 2023. And this is, you could see CB3 on the left and CB6 on the right. And so these sites are ready. They've already checked them. Some are excavated, they're marked. So watch for it in April. And this is really, to me, absolutely thrilling. We really need a canopy. So this is steps towards. Next slide. Last fall, I, with JK, organized, and I don't know if JK is here, but we organized an afternoon talking about urban trees. What was flying around in a disgusting way were those lantern flies. Hundreds of them came to the event, but it was a really great exchange. And there's a lot of people in the community who are working on trees or designing tree guards. And it was just a good exchange of ideas. We need a lot more energy around this particular topic. And that bit.ly has all the notes. One of the speakers there, by the way, came from the Atlanta forest, where they're trying to build Cop City now. And I think you probably have all heard the news, sad news about a protester being killed, and the whole issue around urban forests growing much larger as a result. And to me, it's something that every city needs, and that they would want to knock it down for police training, and a soundstage doesn't make any sense at all. We need to keep our forests intact. Next one. Oh, we are doing a project around mapping climate change this year, especially climate justice. We're going to be starting in about April or so, but if you're interested, please drop me a line, apple@greenmap.org. I'm trying to involve groups all over the city, so every neighborhood is represented on this new map. And we have a mapping platform that makes it really easy to add sites with your phone, or to and to include sound files if you like, or photos. And of course, you're not limited to making this kind of a map, but with our iconography platform and engagement tools, make a project that really suits your community. There have been green maps made all over. Check it out at greenmap.org. And I think there's one more slide. And that's it. Oh, yes, you can add your favorite trees to the tree love map. You can use that bit.ly, or you can use the QR, and you'll get to a little survey. And please add more to the trees to the tree love map. Thanks so much. That's the end of my presentation for today.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Wendy.
Thank you, everybody.
Awesome. I've heard so much about Green Map, and I haven't yet tried the tools myself. So I'm glad to hear that it's so accessible and usable.
It really is. And if you all want to walk or talk about it someday, happy to do that. The URL for the tree love map, what was it? Ooh.
I think
I'll find it and put it in the chat, Anna.
Yes, perfect. I was saying in the chat also, Wendy, I'm so glad that you shared the Parks tree map too. I remember everyone in Parks was sharing that with each other, so excited. So that's great. We can see that all the trees versus the map of trees that people really love and have a special connection to, which is sweet to see.
And you know, if you do start taking care of a tree, you can keep track of it on the city's tree map. And that's really nice because then everybody can see, okay, it's been watered or pruned or whatever. I'll put that link in this chat too. Thank you, everybody. And thanks for all
Yes.
the love.
Thank you again, Wendy. Awesome. Yeah, I know I'm going to be looking forward to that link, and how sweet that we get to see how all of our trees are doing. That's so awesome. Another community member that we're going to be hearing from next is, let's see, speaking on behalf of the Los Zaira United Neighborhood Gardens, we're going to be hearing from Irene, who is going to be speaking about Green Oasis Garden, which is one of the major pollinator gardens in the neighborhood. So why don't I pull up Irene here. Irene, can you unmute yourself or identify so I know you're here and ready?
Yeah, I'm here.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah.
Let me find you. Awesome, okay, cool. There
I
we
got
go.
this.
All right, take it away.
So I'm going to speak really briefly. One of the things, so I was actually inspired by knowing that this call was happening to go over to the Lungs office. Lungs is Lower East Side United something Gardens. It's a coalition of Lower East Side gardens, and there's a office on 10th Street, and they have a report by something called Gardens Rising, which was basically a partially funded grant that looked at different bioremediation efforts that could happen and be in the gardens. And we're actually they focus on Green Oasis as a pollinator garden. The picture that you have, so we almost are, we do have bees in the garden, but they actually point out a bunch of ways that we could up our game. So so I'm really glad that we had this call. So we have this picture right here is a bat house that we built to spec. We had the local park ranger come down and walk around with us and look at our garden. Green Oasis is on 8th Street between C and D. It was founded in 1981 by Norman Velez and Ronaldo Arenas. And the idea was to basically give kids a place to play because there weren't so many safe places, they thought. And we're actually two gardens, we're Green Oasis and Rosso Gilbert Sculpture Garden. So we've been around for a long time and we're mostly a shade garden at this point. So the park ranger came and looked. There weren't that many places for us to have this bat house, but we located one. It's there. The idea is to help the bats would maybe help us with mosquitoes. If you want to keep going, I'll see what slide ended up being next. Those are our hives that are still up. Next slide is that's our pond in the back. If you go to the next slide, you can see our composting area. Is there two other slides, or that's all that made it? That's all that made it. Okay, so that's us. And one of the Gardens Rising report basically looked at ways that resilience could be added to gardens and suggested buying a bunch of different pollinator plants. So we're gonna look into that. And we're also, Andrew from Andrew's Honey actually sells hives in the spring. So our garden is speaking to Dan of Dan's Bees and Peas, is the person who has a hive right now. He does workshops through Time's Up in our garden for people to learn about beekeeping, but we're actually in touch with him about the gardeners sort of stewarding their own hive and buying a hive from Andrew of Andrew's Honey, because he again sells them. He also has a bee internship every year that he does. So if you're interested in that, you can go to andrewshoney.com, and then he's part of a beekeepers organization for New York City. So thank you for having Ecological City so we could start to get our act together and be even more active pollinators.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing, Irene. Yeah, Green Oasis Yeah, as Irene shared, it's been around since the 80s. One of the pleasures of working with Green Thumb, I get to see a lot of the archives, and it's crazy to see how many of these gardens in the Lower East Side, some of people on this call have been here through that whole time. You get to see how much these have grown and changed. And that's why events like this are so important for us to reflect and see how much we can grow and change, and how resilient this city is, and how much we're willing to do to protect our green spaces and make sure that they are making a better world for all.
Can I add one quick thing really fast? I'm sorry to be a pain.
Please.
So at the memorial for Alicia Torres, there was some talk about making a cabezudo, which is one of those huge puppet heads that is quite political in nature. So I've been speaking a little bit to Arash from More Gardens about how that might work, and I mentioned it today to Ecological City. So hopefully that's something that we can get done. Her grandsons were super into the idea, so we started talking about it at her memorial. Thanks.
That's awesome, Irene. Thank you for sharing that. I just love this community, you guys. It's so special how much we can all connect about these things and make art pieces that mean so much and matter so much to so many people in so many different ways. Moving on to the next community update, we're going to be hearing from Dr. Paul Mankiewicz, who is with the Gaia Institute, but is going to speak a little bit about climate and coastal resiliency in the Lower East Side and along the East River Coast here. So let me pull Paul up here and give him the mic. Here we go. Perfect. Let me spotlight you. Paul, take it away.
Okay, wonderful. Yeah, this is magnificently good. So I have worked a lot on the terrestrial landscape, but it's also connected to the water and the estuary and the terrestrial landscape. This was when the Delawares lived here in Lenape. It was the richest temperate estuary on planet Earth. And I love what you're describing for the landscape. And I'll just say, Wendy, that was just a beautiful piece with the trees. And what they need is, of course, water. And let me just say it another way. When the Lenapes, Mannahatta covered this whole 300 square miles, the energy from the water and carbon exchange was literally about 44 times our present electric grid. 11,000 megawatts sounds like a lot. It's nothing compared to what the trees do. So what we have to do is just increase the coverage, land and water all together. And so it's where we can talk otherwise, Wendy, on this, but the city wants to build aquifers even where they can't put the trees in. You're putting the trees in. So worthwhile getting in touch with Pinar Boutzy and the folks over there, because I think DEP will build them with you, especially with all those beautiful trees you're putting in. So that you're already doing work to keep the runoff out of the combined sewer, but it's all really about the metabolism of the city itself. So the metabolism to cool the city of that 11,000 megawatts is 3,000. The metabolism to clean the water out of the 8,000 in winter, 11,000 in summer is basically always 2,000 megawatts. But the point is that life can be quite different, because you could have literally, instead of a wastewater treatment plant, or coupled with it in some way, marshes around the entire estuary. So the next slide, that's the right, I'm not sure if this is the right presentation. Oh, maybe it is. So here's the problem. We can make better and better wastewater treatment systems, but it's going to cost billions of dollars and do virtually nothing. So that's simply because, remember, every day of the winter, we spend 1/4 of the energy. Every megawatt costs you a half ton of CO2 when you produce it. So 2,000 a day, there's 1,000 tons of carbon dioxide guaranteed, but not at all true for what ecosystems do. In fact, they do it in the opposite way. They capture carbon while also literally cooling the landscape and creating biodiversity. Next slide. And DEP is working on this. I started it with them in 2002, but basically they're trying to get mussels permitted in the Jamaica Bay, but everywhere around the East River, everywhere. All you would need would be 14 or 15 acres of mussels, and they would filter the full 1.3 billion gallons of wastewater every single day. So if you did 30, you'd be turning what's now a pollutant into a fishery. The next slide. Oh, this is the wrong, you know, this is the wrong of the,
I didn't, hi, sorry, Paul, I didn't receive your latest one.
yeah, I
looked-
put it on the, I put it on the, I literally uploaded it onto the, you know, the,
Okay, okay, I'm checking now. Okay, all right.
nothing has
So,
changed from last year.
yeah, it'll take just 1 second. I thought you'd email it to me and then I checked and kept refreshing and I never saw it.
Yeah, because it was big,
yeah,
so that was easier to think to just put it, and also Felicia sent me the address, so I
That's
thought I
okay,
would do that,
though.
yeah. Also, that way
I figure-
you could do other things. Behind me, by the way, is a green roof on the Linda Tool that saves, it's 12,000 square feet. It saves 40% of the air conditioning and 25% of the heating. So basically, it would change the cost of running buildings. So when you look at the Lower East Side, and he's basically every roof you cover, every wall on the south and west side will drop the temperature of the entire landscape. And to get the kids into that is life-saving, literally, because that's where the biota that we all live with supports us. So not so different, but where are we? To go, maybe give me an overview quickly so I can see we're on the right place here. That's the end. Can you show the whole bunch so I can see?
Carla, can you show the overview? Yeah.
Yes, okay, that's good. So just go to the top one, top slide, just go to the top. You're not there yet. There we go. Is that? Yeah. Next one. Just go up and just start again so I can get myself oriented and we can be quick. Okay. Okay. So what was missing, even though it's not perfectly easy to read, amongst those beautiful hexagons, there's oysters. And you have a choice. We have a choice. We could either spend that 2,000 megawatts a day to clean water, or we can get water to some cleanliness, but also basically then feed all the nutrients to all those creatures. See the anchovies, the striped bass, the blue crabs, and everybody. And the oysters and the rib mussels are a central part of that. The point is that basically that web is made of the nitrogen, made of what otherwise would be pollutants in the sound, and it turns it into literally life. Next slide. So closer look. Bay anchovy there. So all these beings are pretty much in the East River, but we don't, there's just the plan you had for the East River Park was beautiful, simply spilling over so that it's wetland again, like all of the Lower East Side once was when Peter Stuyvesant was here. Basically, that wetland is what runs the fishery. So it's all the pieces, but imagine those pieces are made of the stuff that we try to filter out of the water with our treatment systems and combined sewer. Next slide. So the problem is, now I was not really much of a student all the time, but an F rating doesn't sound good. And there you have Western Sound, which can only have an F rating because it's actually not that the water is dirty. It's just we're such perfect Puritans that we get everything out except the nitrate. And nitrate is a perfectly pretty stuff. It just happens to be a plant food. And on hot summer days, it will power the growth of algae. So they grow to unbelievable abundances. And at night, they still breathe and they pull all the oxygen out and kill the fish in the process. You can't run it otherwise. Those food webs I showed you is exactly where the nitrogen goes. It's one or the other because you can never get it out of the water. You could put more carbon in, but remember, we're already guaranteeing sea level rise because 1/4 to 1/5 the carbon that comes out. The local law 97 is nothing compared to this huge percentage of the total use. And New York City is actually efficient compared to other cities, which are 30 to 40% on the wastewater treatment. And it's always about roughly speaking, a third-ish or so to cool the cities. And that water we use to basically back to Wendy and the plants and getting watered. The city, literally, where there's vegetation cover, Tompkins Square Park, any place where there's a canopy, can never get to ambient temperature. It will always run degrees below. And that water basically feeds the trees. And if it runs off or if it gets to the sewer pump, it always will discharge nitrate. So that's the problem with the red on the left there in the eastern sound. Next slide. So again, our muscles, next slide shows basically what it ought to look like with the muscles coming in numbers. And again, DEC, the next slide shows, I showed before. So basically those are rib muscles. They're here. That's something like 150-ish muscles per square foot. That's kind of typical, and DEP tells me that filtration rate is absolutely enormous. And they're trying to permit this right now in Jamaica Bay, but it should be really in our neighborhood too, around the, well, all the way around the Sound and all the way around the East River. The next slide. So basically, just next time you go to a fish store, look at the striped bass. She is 44% salt marsh. The carbon in her body is literally made from that exquisite marsh on the left, not directly. It feeds the killifish and the Atlantic silver sides and the green crabs and everything else. So that's fine. You can go to the next one. So basically the city is planning to do something with Rikers Island, and that's probably a good idea. They're looking to basically increase water treatment efficiencies. But the next slide shows a way to do that with next slide. Yeah. Basically, it's possible to build acres of marsh. And the next slide shows what this looks like around. So 8 acres of marsh filters billions of gallons. Seems like we're missing a slide here, but essentially a single acre of, 15 acres of marsh filters 1.3 billion gallons. And it simply looks like this. We have those gabions. We have in New York City every single day, 19,500 tons a day of waste concrete, brick, and glass, absolutely clean material that could be used to literally remake the thousands of acres of marsh and mussel bed that we lost in making the city's edge. Next slide. So basically, that shallow area is already right next to the Hunts Point wastewater treatment plant. You just take those gabions and you put them around that edge on the water side to simply break the velocity of the water so the grasses can grow. And the grasses will support the mussels and the rib and the fiddler crabs. And basically, out of those marshes comes the productivity of the estuary, the striped bass and everyone else. And the people who lived here very well. And we have taken away from most New Yorkers, literally the fishery, because our water is so clean in terms of nutrients, and it's so sterile in the edge, the entire edge of New York City, just like the landscape having no trees, the edge has no marshes. And if we reverse that, we reverse the whole climate change problem. Every couple of acres of marsh will capture over about 10 years' time a ton of blue carbon that you won't see for a century. It will be stored for the same story, basically around all the different wastewater treatment plants. Next slide. And this, it looks like a beautiful creature, and she is, but it's a miserable weed. And all you need to do is break the energy of the incoming water, get the landscape to the intertidal depth. And that is to say, up here in the Bronx, we've got an 8-foot tide. Down around the East River there, you've got about 5 feet 2. So basically, you simply get the edge. So it all looks like the area on the inside of the bridge we walk over during the pageant. And once you do that and break the water coming in from the outside, marshes will grow. And with them, everything else of the estuary. Next slide. So mussels are used literally in the fjords around Norway to get the nutrients out of the water. Very straightforward. And we can do exactly the same. It's done elsewhere. And they are the base of the food chain. Suspension feeders have been here since the Cambrian, 550 million years. It's literally the way the world works. Nature wastes nothing. So literally a square foot of these creatures can filter 2,000 gallons of water a day. Virtually all the water in the intertidal goes through mussels and into the biota, into life, into the food web. Next slide. So I get a great kick out of Christos. It just shows you that's about the amount of water filtered every single day by just a fringing marsh of a small scale, 10, 20, 30 feet. And you have literally the water to that depth around the whole thing filtered every single tide change. In other words, what was plankton, what was basically life in the estuary water column now becomes clear water and food stock for feeding the rest of life. Next slide shows these mussels were living. This is literally where the toxic leachate from the Pelham Bay landfill was pouring out. Not only didn't kill them, they would actually filter it out and deposit it in the mud below them. So our choice is either to make the sterile coastline ever more sterile and the landscape the same, or you can do what Wendy was describing, and many of you, just the gardens are basically a way to bring the landscape to life. And it's just an absolute transformation. I worked with Liz Christie 1,000 years ago, looking at lead in the soils down on the east side, and now the Urban Soils Institute is doing kindred work around the city. So you can find out what's in the soil. And once you do know the soil is safe, then you have to throw the children into it because that keeps them alive. Literally true. Next slide.
Paul, for the sake of time, if we could wrap it up.
That's it.
Awesome.
So the message.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Paul, for providing us with so much insight about the coasts and how important all these little creatures are that I think some people don't often, give a second thought to, but they're super important. That's why the work you do is important to remind us of those things. The next person we're going to hear from in the community is discussing a topic that we all care a lot about and we've heard a lot about, and I'm sure many of you have been involved, but we're going to hear a little bit more about the East Side Coastal Resiliency in regards to the East River Park. So I'm going to go ahead and spotlight Allie Ryan.
Thank you, Hannah. So as many of you know, probably 60% of East River Park right now is destroyed since, we were there all together last year. Today, what I want to talk about is the impending construction overlap, which will affect park access for East River Park and Tompkins Square Park. And it's the northern end of East River Park. Next slide. So I'm going to just let everybody read this, but what I want to share is starting next month, there's going to be areas specifically where the children's sprinkler area and the swimming pool and the bathrooms in Tompkins Square Park are going to be closed for a major, much needed capital project to renovate the field house, which includes the bathrooms. And next slide. And that's going to be over the construction is going to be overlapping with the destruction as well as the construction in East River Park. This particular slide was exhibited last month at Community Board 3. And so January 2023, you can see what the status is, and that below Houston is closed off at this time. What is of concern to me is when I realized that come October or the fall, next slide, the between Houston and 4th Street will be closed. So this is, if you go to Tompkins Square Parks Department website, you can click on this page to see the project timeline for the field house, and it begins next month, as I said, and it's supposed to be completed in September 2024, which is basically going to be 2 summers that you'll have the children's sprinkler area and the children's pool closed to the public. Next slide. And then in addition, there's going to be a pavement reconstruction capital project going on in Tompkins Square Park. And so the multi-purpose area, which is at the corner of Avenue A and 10th Street, is projected to be closed this fall. And it is going to, and the project will be completed next June. And it's also supposed to reconstruct the asphalt pathways, but I have not been able to gather clear information about what that actually entails. As many of you know, the 9th Street pathway desperately needs to be repaved. Next slide. So here's a great visual for Tompkins Square Park. The black X's means that those areas of the park are going to be closed to the public starting in March. And then the area with the purple X, that part of the park will be closed in September. And then I also want you to be aware the central lawn, the Parks Department is right now considering reseeding the central lawn, which is also much needed. It hasn't been reseeded in several years, but it's also not the best time because it's limiting our green space or access to green space. Next slide. And so going back to East River Park, just to give more of a visual, where the area with the X and a rectangle will be closed off coming this fall, in addition to south of Houston, which is already closed off to the public. And then in the fall, Corlear's Hook Park is supposed to reopen to the public. Okay, next slide. So how I want to end this on a good note is to reinforce how important community gardens are going to be this year for us, and that if you're not a member of a community garden, I encourage you to join, because these community gardens are not just examples of climate resiliency and climate solutions, but they're also going to be green havens for our families. And I like to think of them as outdoor community centers as well. But with the limited park access that we will have with Tompkins Square Park and East River Park, we need our community gardens more than ever. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Allie. I was just looking up a link here for people who are interested in joining a community garden and are not sure how to start. I'm plugging the Green Thumb page there. Not all gardens are Green Thumb gardens, but most in the Lower East Side are. If not, you can contact a land trust or the New York Restoration Project as well. So now with the few minutes we have left here, we're going to move to the Q&A portion. So I'm going to ask anyone that has a question to please use the raise hand feature, or this is also an opportunity if other people in the community want to, share how they contribute to the project or what they're excited about contributing this year, or maybe ideas. This is the space to do so with the time limitations considered. So please raise your hands now. While we wait to see if hands are raised, Felicia, do you want to share other notes here? Let me, first you need to unmute.
Yeah, no, so what I was going to say is one of the critical ways that I'm thinking, people can also, besides the workshops, contribute is also referring dancers, musicians, singers, that they know of that may have work related. So many people in the neighborhood know other people that have related work related to nature or climate or the riverfront, trees. And I've been talking to Wendy. We also want to sort of keep trees as one of our main themes this year. And we want to integrate a tree ceremony. So we need to identify sort of a site, hopefully that is where some new tree planting is going on. Marcia, I don't know if she's still there, was on the call, is going to be writing a poem about trees. And I'm going to connect her to Wendy. So she's actually going to be doing research over the next few months to, compile that research and then develop a poem. And then we can work further on a tree ceremony. The other part of it is that while we have these ceremonies and these performances at each of the sites that celebrates a different climate solution, I think we should be able to enhance even just having 1 minute speaker presentations. Like Irene mentioned the honeybees guy, but sometimes we've asked the gardeners to say a few words about their climate solution, but sometimes there are really experts out there that could speak to this in just a minute. We don't, between the performance and the ceremony, you don't have a long time for a huge speech, but there are definitely moments, I think, where we could have somebody who's really a bee specialist speak to that at whether it's Green Oasis Garden. I've been in touch with somebody who is a green roof expert who could say a few words in front of the Earth School. So if any of you also know any of these experts, please reach out to us. And we can enlist them and add that into the sites, just so I think, people really understand as much as they can at each site that they visit about what these various solutions are.
Awesome. Let me see. I think I see a hand or two. Oh, awesome. Candace of Sty Cove Park. Why don't you go ahead and unmute?
Hi, are my headphones working okay?
Yep.
Awesome. Hi, really happy to finally be able to catch up with everybody. I have been managing Sty Cove Park for the past couple of years, and I'm excited to figure out how to support. Sty Cove Park was also closed as part of the East River East Side Coastal Resiliency Project. I'm happy to report that very soon the north portion of it will be reopening. We actually are hoping to have a big kind of spring reopening festival on April 2nd. We're going to have hopefully a dance group who's going to come and do some programming for kids and everyone, a seed swap, etc. And in early May, we're going to be doing a planting out of some native plants for the Greenbelt Native Plant Center seed increase program. So I was thinking that maybe we could figure out how to tie that event in and help people kind of get involved at that plant out and link it to eco celebrations, if that feels amenable. Otherwise, happy to figure out how else we can support.
Yeah, we can be in touch and figure it out.
Sweet. Thanks. Nice to meet you.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing, Candace. Does anyone else have a hand raised or a contribution that they would like to share? I see Carla's hand is raised.
Yes, I just wanted to say that I put our Eventbrite links into the chat. So if you just click on that, you can register for our workshops. And then I'll put in the Procession also, which is the big event on Saturday, May 14th.
Awesome. Thank you, Carla. Yes, everyone, you should be going to these workshops. Our artists are really great at making everything feel very accessible to you. And getting your hands on some art materials feels good for the soul for anyone. Any other hands raised here with the few minutes we have left?
Are any of the other partners, are they still on the call from Henry Street or University Settlement? No.
Partners, if you're here and you wish to be called upon, please identify yourselves.
Otherwise, yeah, everyone just stay in touch. We'll be sending out notices soon. The best way to sort of keep on top of the current actions and workshops is on Facebook as well as Instagram and Twitter. But Facebook is really, the Earth Celebrations Facebook page is where we post most of the events and detailed information. The workshops are up are free. They're no charge, but we do have a limited number of people who can attend. So if you know there are particular dates that you want to join, you need to sign up on Eventbrite for that. And then for the day of the pageant, we need literally hundreds of volunteers. All the interns who are working with us play roles as marshals. It really ends up being a cast of 500 people that I know I'm directly communicating with. So we do need as much help as we can get. So if any of you have ideas and are connected to different volunteer groups that want to join, the pageant is a great way to be part of this and help make it all happen. So thanks.
Awesome. Thank you, Felicia. One little ceremony, I guess, that we've developed over the COVID years and a ways of reminding everyone that we're together and we all have, a shared vision for our future is to close with a collaborative collage and movement. So we ask at this time that everyone bring up a picture of nature that really speaks to your heart and soul on another device so that you're able to hold it up to the screen. And Carla is going to play a song here shortly that we'll all feel the lovely vibes to. And we're going to do some movement together. There it is. So what we've been doing is we'll do just like a sway together, side to side, and then we swirl our hand, and then we'll bring up the collage. And that way we have a record here of this collective art piece that we all are making here in this virtual space. All right, so everyone get your picture ready. All right. Okay, everyone, we're gonna do the collective movement here, okay? Carla, can you turn it up a little? Okay, everyone, ready? Play your arms, curl. Let's bring up your photo. Awesome, everyone. This looks great. Trying our best here. Awesome. Hey, Carly, you can go ahead and fade out with the music. Oh, or abrupt stop works too. Awesome. Cool, everyone. So thank you so much for coming to the panel and discussion. The Zoom is going to cut us off here shortly, but I know that Felicia will try to share a recording of this meeting and all the materials that were shared on Facebook and those other links that she mentioned very soon. So if you want to come back and reference those, they will be accessible to you. And I hope that this is a beneficial experience for those involved and that you've gained some connections and insight into the wonderful happenings throughout the Lower East Side and the ecological community. Felicia, any closing words?
No, thank you all for being part of it. And we're going to be moving into workshops soon, so lots of creative action.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone, for being here. You're all great. Sending all my loving and tree hugging. So keep on doing you and take care, everyone.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.